The question is, what causes low back pain? And there's probably going to be two parts to this answer. One is the part that you'll get from most sources. So if you read a website, or if you go and speak with your GP or a lot of health professionals, this is the answer that you'll get. And then I'm going to follow it up with something that might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but it's actually the way that it works. So the common answer is there's a structure in your back that is giving you pain. And it's true, there are a lot of structures in your back that can be involved. So there are the bony elements, so the actual vertebral body itself. So if you have a crush fracture, if you have osteoporosis, for example, and the bone integrity gets challenged, they're really painful. So bone can be one of those structures. The disc, of course, can be one of those structures, and if it's irritated, if it's strained, if it's herniated, if it's bulged, all of those lovely evocative words. If there's something going on with the disc, that can be a factor. It can be a contributing factor in what's going on. There are facet joints as well, so these are more towards the back of each of the spinal joints, and they can create danger messages too. There's an exiting nerve root as well. If that gets irritated either chemically or mechanically, it can contribute to pain. They're probably the main structures. There's muscle too, and muscle gets blamed a lot, and you got a strained muscle, that's why you got back pain. Most of the time that's not the case. I'm just going to come right out and say it. If you're told that your pain is muscular, that is rarely the primary cause. So a muscle can certainly contribute to pain. Muscle spasm, muscle tightening, all that stuff is usually a response. It's rarely the case. I can't think of one situation where someone has had back pain primarily because of muscle. It just doesn't happen. So muscle can be a contributing factor, but more often than not, it's part of your response protective system and goes into overdrive. The sacroiliac joints have been possible causes of low back pain. There are ligaments associated with the spine, the longitudinal ligaments, ligamentum flavum, interspinous ligaments. Yeah, there's ligaments involved too. So that's probably more the textbook kind of answer. And of course, we shouldn't forget too that there are inflammatory diseases. So ankylosing spondylitis is a really obvious one where back pain, low back pain is often a feature. So there are inflammatory diseases. There are more serious situations too, like malignancy, where bone tumour is a cause, and multiple myeloma is another example where that commonly shows itself as low back pain. So, and they're the things that need to be excluded first of all. If you go and see your doctor or you see a physio or someone, they need to be excluded early on. So anyway, that's the textbook answer. Back pain related to a disc, back pain related to a facet joint, back pain related to a muscle, back pain caused by these things. Now, this is a bit that might be a little bit counterintuitive, but it's actually the way that it works. So those things don't produce back pain. They don't produce back pain. A disc isn't capable of producing pain. A facet joint isn't capable of producing pain. Even a nerve isn't capable of producing pain. A peripheral nerve. And the reason that I say that, and I'm making this distinction really clearly, is because what they can produce are messages of danger, messages of chemical stimulation, messages of mechanical distortion, like if something's being stretched or pressed, they can create those kind of messages. However, they can't create pain messages. And this is a theme that is really important to understand particularly if you have ongoing pain, ongoing back pain. It's really vital if you want to get to the bottom of it and understand it, and it's quite liberating when you understand this, actually, that these structures on their own don't produce pain. What they do produce are those messages. Those messages are transmitted. Sometimes they're amplified on the way. So there are mechanisms within the body that can make them seem a lot stronger, a lot bigger messages, where a little bit of stretch of the tissue can be amplified on its way up to the brain. The messages reach the brain, and you'll never guess, it's the brain that has the ability of producing the experience of pain. And in doing so, it's taking information from your back, but just as importantly, information from many other sources too, in coming up with a decision about whether you require, whether it's important for you to experience pain. So this comes back to the whole what is pain all about, and it's like I said, and I can't understate this, it's really important, it's really valuable to understand that pain isn't something that's created in your tissues. Pain is the result of an evaluation of everything that's going on, and what's happening in your tissues is going to make up part of that evaluation. So to learn a little bit more about that and to get a little bit more context behind that idea, what I'd suggest is checking out some of the videos that us physios at Adelaide West have done on amazing pain stories, because they go some way to support this idea that you can have stuff go on in your tissues but not have pain. You can have quite catastrophic things happen in your tissues and not have pain. You can be shot and not have pain. But the other way around can operate as well. You can have pain without necessarily having tissue damage. So if you can get behind the idea, and it takes a bit of thinking about, and I completely understand that, if you can get behind the idea that what's happening in your back and what's happening in terms of your pain aren't necessarily and don't have to be equivalents. You can have damage in your back, you can have tissue changes in your back that are really quite significant and not have much pain. You can have quite significant pain without damage, or quite commonly the situation is someone has a back pain episode and it's pretty serious at the time, pretty severe, the pain's pretty severe. That back pain problem, that what's actually happening in the tissues, heals and goes through its normal biological processes and is becoming healthier in time, but the person is still experiencing pain, and that equivalence is never an equivalence, but that relationship breaks down where things that are happening in the tissues are no longer reflected in what someone's feeling with their pain. That's a really common thing with low back pain, and I think it's partly because the structures are deep, they're on our back, we don't see them. You compare that with a cut on your hand, you can see it changing, you can see it healing, you can see it as you move. There are a lot of things that go against back pain, really, and one of the big ones is people's prior thoughts and convictions about low back pain and what's happened to people that they know, or stories of people that they know, or people that have gone down a really bad track with their back pain or have ended up having surgery, what my neighbour said. All those preconceptions are most definitely part of that weighing up process that happens in your head, what you believe about your problem what could happen, what could go wrong, what the future could hold, certainly shapes that. So I don't plan on going into, in this video at least, I don't plan into going into, you know, what the solution is, but just to discuss this idea that, you know, low back pain, it's such a huge problem in the world, in the developing world, and in our Western society. A huge problem. A lot of disability related to it, and despite the fact that there's a lot more understanding about pain and pain mechanisms and low back pain and the best ways to treat it, it's still often looked at as a really structural problem, like that first part of my answer. And I personally believe that that's had a lot to do with so many people ending up with disability, with all the problems that have come over the years with and created persistent pain situations. So I hope that's kind of interesting. I'm sorry if it's a little bit dissonant maybe with what you thought you might hear on this video, but it's important to present both sides of it, I think, and the conversation about pain is a really, really important one. And just one final note too, in talking about, and this comes up all the time, in talking about the brain in relation to back pain, it doesn't mean I'm saying it's all in your head. And if there's one thing that most people that bravely take on this idea of talking about pain as it really is, and start talking about the central nervous system, talking about the brain, that's one of the most common things that they'll come up against, is the person that says, oh, so you're saying it's all in my head, and it's not what we're saying. What I'm saying is that but from a biological point of view, we're talking biologically, your brain is pulling together all of the inputs, is pulling together all of your thoughts, all of your beliefs, which in the end are just nerve impulses anyway, and putting them together and working out how important it is. And if it's important enough, if it deems that you're in danger enough, that there's enough threat, then you'll have a sensation of pain. So if you've got any comments, please leave them below. I'd love to discuss this further in the comments. I reply to every comment that there is. Any thoughts, if you think what I'm talking about is rubbish, if you think I'm making sense, either way, put in there whatever you think, and yeah, catch you soon. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching our video. If you liked it, we would love it if you would hit the thumbs up button below. It lets YouTube know that we know what we're talking about and that we're helping people. If you like the style of our videos and you'd like to see more of them and know when a new one is published, then just hit the subscribe button. And if you've got any thoughts or comments or questions, please add them below, because we answer all of them, and we love to hear comments because it helps us to shape the channel and find out what people want to know. It helps it to become as relevant as possible for everyone. So thank you.